Hey, this is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More. I've got Bill Margold, Victor Garcia here, and we are having problems with our mics, but I'm going to keep talking until whatever's going on. So what's going on here is, we haven't done a show in a long time. How many years has it been?
Oh, many,
and we
many,
never
many.
did radio.
We've never done radio?
We've never done radio.
That's interesting. I just talk. I don't care where I can talk. I just like to talk.
Well, the thing about I wanted to talk about today, I only told Victor this morning we were going to surprise him about doing everything.
That's
He had
right.
no idea about 8:30 this morning. I thought about it about 3 o'clock, and I figured we'd give him a chance to talk about the movies that he's been suffering through, that I've been driving him all the way around, all the way to private screenings and seeing things.
It's not always
and it would have been
suffering.
fun to do stuff. Obviously, Bill has no ideas what we ever talk about, which is always a great thing, and he likes it like that. And that's
Well, yeah,
what makes
I-
movie reviews more fun on things
I
like
prefer
that.
to be spontaneous, and I know that Brian has access to little tiny movies that I wouldn't watch with a dead man's eyes, but he's given these screenings. I can barely hear myself for some reason, which is interesting. I have no idea if this mic's even alive. Technology and I have never been compatible.
Well, that's always the fun thing about things. So.
Well, now I hear something.
Yeah,
That's
I
very
gotta
nice.
Yeah, but your voice is always loud anyhow, so it doesn't matter.
Yes, I demand to be heard.
Let's talk about this. Okay,
Yes.
something that's made you cry. What movies made you cry?
Well, it's funny you mention that, because I just watched an incredible documentary on an MLB channel, Major League Baseball channel, about the 25th anniversary of Field of Dreams.
Oh, wow.
And I watched it yesterday, and I just cried and cried and cried, because I don't think there's any more movie capable of unlocking the lacrimal rolls, as I call it, than Field of Dreams, because it fulfills the father-son combination of playing catch, as they put it. But I'd already cried a couple of days before that for the Derek Jeter tribute at the Major
Well, he's a
League.
Yankee. We don't care about him, but I do like Derek Jeter.
Well, everybody likes Derek Jeter.
No,
Yeah,
not everybody likes
No,
him.
I don't think there's a person in the world who doesn't, because there's no one who doesn't like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. You have no choice. Derek Jeter is the Santa Claus and Easter Bunny of baseball. He's almost too good to be true, and that's dangerous. But I cried appropriately many times on Tuesday with his farewell to the All-Star game. But then all of a sudden I found this documentary. It's a really great documentary, At the Field, A Field of Dreams, 25 years later. And, of course, Costner's in it, Timothy Busfield's in it. The movie that makes you guaranteed crying movie, Field of Dreams. And I don't know if that would work,
And that's
however, for
weird,
women.
because that was the first one on my list.
Would
Field
that,
of Dreams.
I
On the
wonder
list.
if that would work for a woman if they could identify as closely as a male could identify.
For a woman, yes. Field of Dreams, yes. But they like more like Steel Magnolias.
No,
Beaches.
Ghost.
Ghost. I would
And
say
Ghost.
Ghost, of course, I had seen Ghost right after Viper had vanished, basically, and my favorite song of all time is Unchained Melody. I don't care who sings it. You could have, Winnie the Pooh singing the damn song, and I will cry, because the song means a lot to me. Which, of course, brings up songs and brings up the only movie that's worth a damn this year is Jersey Boys. It's the only movie that I've gone back to see a second time. I admired it more the second time. First time I wasn't as thrilled with it because it went off on what I thought were somewhat insignificant soap operetics. So I'm referring to Jersey Boys as a song opera rather than a soap opera. But Jersey Boys is mounted very, very, very simply by Clint Eastwood. Needs to be reveled in, because it captures an era. It's the kids are tremendous who play the four, Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons, and it gets back to a point right after my makeout songs in the late 50s were
I can't see him making out.
well, no, that's all you could do. And then finally I got to Feel Somebody Up, which was so fucking boring. But my makeout songs were by a group that no one ever remembers called the Skyliners. But that was in the 50s. By the 60s, the makeout songs would have been Frankie Valli and all of his songs. And beautiful, beautiful, beautiful music. And the movie's very well done. I don't know what kind of awards it's going to get, but that doesn't mean anything anyway, because the Oscars, to be honest, are all screwed
Well, here's
up.
what we're going to do. I'm going to name a couple titles. that
Good.
made people cry.
Made people cry or made you cry?
No, people cry.
Oh, just people?
Steel Magnolias did
Still
not make
Magnolias.
Me,
Yeah,
that didn't
no,
make
it
me
didn't
cry.
make me cry
Beauty.
either.
Beauty. What, Beauty and the Beast?
No,
Just Beauty?
Beaches.
Oh,
Oh,
Beaches.
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 Oh,
Cry Freedom. Brian's Song.
oh,
Mr.
Brian's
Holland's
Song,
Opus.
yeah. Well,
Babe.
well, Babe is the best movie
it's
of the
not
1990s.
a sad movie.
Captain
It's a great
Phillips.
movie.
Captain Phillips is dreadful.
Gravity.
Gravity makes you cry?
I didn't
It made a lot of people cry.
feel
I
any-
don't cry. Gravity should have won the
Schindler's
Oscar.
List. The Ice Storm.
Oh, Bill loves that
Ice
one.
Storm is a brilliant film. That's probably Ang Lee's best movie. It is a masterpiece, although he's a remarkable director. He
Ang Lee?
really, really is. I've tried to watch Pi a couple of times.
But that's a terrible movie.
Well, no, it really isn't a terrible
No, it
movie,
actually
but
is
the
a terrible
movie
movie.
absolutely, I still have no idea what's CG'd, what isn't CG'd.
Oh,
That
almost
movie-
everything
that
is
tiger
terrible.
may not
I saw that
exist.
movie and I was thinking, Bill's not going to like this movie
Well,
because I didn't like this movie.
I don't know if I don't like it. It's very pretty. I worry about that tiger who may not even be in the movie. And then where the hell did all those lemmings or whatever the hell they are come from? That island full of lemmings. Yeah, you don't know if the whole damn thing's a dream or not a dream, but you watch it because it's like having all kinds of pretty pictures unfold in front of you, and it's like watching oil paintings. It's a very, and it has a humanity to it, and it does sort of make you cry when the guy tells you the story, and then do you believe it, don't you believe
I
it?
couldn't wait till that movie ended.
It's long.
I saw it at AFI. I'm like, when I was like,
It's a
I need to
pretty
go to
movie,
the next
though.
movie.
That's the thing. It's a beautiful
It's
film.
a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful movie.
You have to appreciate it
but
for that.
I don't know what the
I
hell's
didn't
going
even see
on in
that
it.
for a beautiful film.
And
I
then
didn't
the
see it as a
fish are
beautiful
flying
film.
over the damn boat, and that tiger's catching the fish, and then he exists with the tiger. But then did the tiger ever exist? And then at the end of the tiger wanders out of the jungle, sort of waves goodbye, and wanders back into the jungle. I'm going, what the hell have I just seen?
That's what I was saying.
I have no idea what I was watching. That was the movie that Ang Lee won the Oscar for directing the year that Affleck did not get nominated for directing Argo, which he should have won.
Didn't he?
And that
he won
movie did
director on
deserve
that
the
one,
Oscar.
though.
That is a really, really great
Argo was a
film.
great movie.
It's a movie which I've watched 3 or 4 times, and
Ben's become a great director.
I keep thinking they're going to get caught. I really believe at the end of it, everything's going to go wrong,
That's
and they're
an
going to get
immense
caught. That's
power to
a
that film.
really, really masterpiece of a motion picture. I was comfortable with that winning the Oscar. I was not comfortable with that miserable 12 Years a Slave winning the Oscar.
That was a good movie.
That
We're
movie-
going to go back to current movies, but
That
we're
movie I'm referring to
we're
that.
going back into the past. We're
That-
going to play with our mind right
Well,
now.
it's what's left of mine. I'll be happy to play with.
We're gonna talk about movies that scare you. In my mind, there's 4 movies that scared the audience. I'm going to Rear Window, Psycho, The
He's
Exorcist,
talking about maybe Hitchcock.
and
so.
this is the 40th anniversary this summer of Jaws.
Well,
Jaws
the movie
was
that
not a
scared-
scary movie.
I
Jaws was a scary
No.
movie.
Jaws-
There's people till this day that won't go back into the
That's
sea.
I will agree.
Till this
I will
day.
agree with you about Jaws until you saw the shark. I grew up in the ocean, and I've bumped into things in the ocean that have bumped into me, and I'm lucky to still be around because the ocean's been trying to kill me. Jaws was effective until you saw the shark and could rationalize that it was just a sort of ugly-looking rubber thing with very bad teeth. To me, the most frightening movie ever made is Rosemary's
No,
Baby.
but there's
Rosemary's
well, okay.
Baby is
All
a
right, that's a good
fantastic
point.
film.
But I didn't like the ending. But again,
What ending?
playing with exactly
What exactly
ending?
do you see in that crib?
Not well. You don't see anything.
Oh,
that's
but
the
the
thing.
problem
It's on your
is,
mind.
you do see something.
What is it? 2 against 1 now?
Well, no,
It is,
but
that
you do
Rosemary's
see
Baby it
something.
is.
You do see something in your own mind.
Exactly.
As
I
a-
didn't see anything.
As
I was
I-
You didn't
confused.
want to see anything.
Well,
No, I wanted to see
the
something.
beauty of the horror is what isn't seen.
That
What your
movie
mind
crawled up
can-
under my eyelids and died there.
My mother will never
I
watch that
hated
film
that
again.
ending.
It was
Oh,
a
I thought the
fantastic
movie is brilliant. It's the
No,
most,
the movie is not brilliant.
And the original, I'll tell you another
That's what
one.
I call a 3/4 of a way
Oh
movie.
no.
the movie that the first. I wrote a story about this recently for the LA Express because I had to go through taking a driving test, a questionnaire, and I said that was as horrifying as going to horror movies. So I wrote about my favorite horror movies of the 50s when I was impressionable. I still am, but the first movie that scared the hell out of me was The Black and White Thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because black and white is much more frightening than color.
Absolutely.
far.
The minute you
Far.
start seeing color, you start rationalizing all kinds of things, and you say, oh, that's phony blood, or that throat doesn't look right when it's been slit, or those eyes don't really look real when they're rolling on the floor. But the black and white thing, in all those shadows, with, of course, James Arness, now we know played the monster, a big carrot, apparently, scared the hell out of me. And I never really understood why my mother would make me go see that movie when I, like in 1950, 51, when I really, like 8, 9 years old, I'm sitting through this movie, and then, you know what I would do when I had nightmares? I would get up, and I'd go to a room and turn on the lights and wait until daylight. Then I wouldn't have nightmares anymore. When I lived, after I saw a movie called The Man with the Atomic Brain, which is an awful film, but there's one scene where the guy says, "You're not one of them, are you?" And then the guy turns toward him, and you see that he is one of them. That frightened me to the point that I lived at that point in a sort of an orphanage for incorrigible Jewish children, to get up and stand in the bathroom.
Right there.
Well, I failed Hebrew class many, many years in a row on purpose, but I purposely stood in the bathroom until the sun came up. Once the sun comes up, it washes away all your fears.
Somewhat. I just saw the 2 more movies. Omega Man with Charlton Heston and The Village of the Damned. I still see those. The first one.
The
I still see those
black
kids
and white
turning.
movie.
Exactly. Black and white.
Black and white movie. Omega Man is Heston. I remember where I saw that, 1971, in the Wiltern Theater, up in the balcony with the most remarkable, next to Viper, the most remarkable woman I've ever known in my life. We spent more time rolling around the balcony than watching the movie, which is a really good film because, of course, he dies. You know, the fact that Heston dies, and Heston, like Wayne, was never supposed to die. Of course, Heston dies in one of the greatest movies ever made, which is El Cid. He's dead, and he rides out, and the line in that I've used many times, he rode out of history into legend, which, of course, I use as my own line, because I've created history, and now I've become legend.
For all those people outside the U.S., if you've not seen, well, depending on the ages, you're young, depending on the ages, you know, you got to see Psycho. You got to see Jaws. You got to see Rear Window. You got to see The Exorcist. And the other thing that we didn't mention, in The Godfather, the one thing that everybody remembers is the horse.
Horse's head?
The horse in the bed.
Well, Godfather...
That was a scene of drama and pain.
Well, The Godfather, as a chronological parts 1 and 2 together, is the greatest piece of cinema ever created. The 8.5 to 9 hour version that Coppola patchwork pulls it together. I have 2 copies of it at home, and if I have a chance around the holidays, I will sit down and non-stop watch the entire appreciation of the greatest pieces of film ever put together. It's interesting you mentioned Psycho. Of course, everybody thinks of only one scene, which is the shower scene, which, to be honest with you, is a strange form of erotic masturbation launching for me. However, the most frightening scene in the history of film takes place in Psycho, and it's when Martin Balsam is climbing the stairs, and the overhead shot with the music and the crunching of the knife into him and him rolling back down the stairs. That's the first time I ever think I had a heart attack. I was at the Pickwood Theater in the summer of 1960, and everything, I froze. I remember I sat there and I could not move and I could not breathe, and I said, I guess I've just died. It was unbelievable. The only other time I ever felt that was a very unfair scene in the remake of The Thing, which I thought was ridiculous when Brimley sticks his hands into the chest and has him hacked off and comes up with bloody stumps.
The chest opens up like a jaw.
That was a little too much from Carpenter, who, by the way, Carpenter had, in my opinion, made the best exploitation film, which would be a Saturday afternoon matinee for adult movie, Assault on Precinct 13.
Oh, yeah.
I'm only bringing that up because I'm about to write for a magazine called Grindhouse Purgatory, and I'm going to write about my favorite Grindhouse movie, which is Precinct 13. I have, by the way, and you're certainly welcome to it, the only interview ever done with Darwin Jostin. He was a very shy man. He was a very odd man to get along with. But I interviewed him many, many years ago, and we had a good time. And I asked him, "This is the game you played in the schoolyard when you were a kid?" And he said, "You're damn right it was." In fact, a very dear friend of mine honored Jostin and Napoleon Wilson in a film by having the Darwin Jostin charm school and taught by Napoleon Wilson. I think Jostin's performance in that movie is brilliant. He only has like 12 lines in the whole film, and he just, at the end of it, when Austin Stoker says to him, "I'm proud to have known you," and he says, "I know you are." Well, my God, that is just... And I wonder how much of that was scripted and how much of it was him.
All right, let's talk about movies that I thought were overrated when we come back. We'll be back in about 60 seconds. Got any callers out there? Feel free to call in. We welcome them.
Do we get callers?
We may not have time to talk to you, but we never know.
Oh.
And we'll be right back.
I love
I'm
callers.
Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. Hi, this is Brian Sebastian. You're listening and watching the Movie Reviews and More. Today's co-hosts, Bill Margold and Victor Garcia, straight from San Antonio, Texas. What the hell are you doing here?
That's the Alamo, kid.
Yeah, that's the
I
Alamo.
went there twice when I cried
Never forget
both
the
times.
Alamo.
And we're talking about movies that inspire you. 3 off the top of my head, and you hate this movie, but I liked it.
Uh-oh.
The Blind Side.
Oh, that
no, I hate that
unbelievable.
Movie fresh.
Well, the tragedy
And
of the
Searching
Blind.
for Bobby Fischer.
I love Bobby Fischer.
Notice they got 2 chess movies in there.
Yes,
I
and,
love
and
the
that
chess.
Fresh is a masterpiece. Caught me completely off guard.
Boaz Yatkin.
Yeah, Boaz Yatkin, and also that great scene where they have to hang the mad dog. They've got to kill the dog
That's right.
because it's gone out of control. Bobby Fischer snuck up on me. I remember I saw it in 1994, and it was the last movie that a friend of mine named Elmer and I saw together before he went to Hawaii, where he's now been basically trapped in paradise for the last 20 years. Bobby Fischer's a great, great film. It's an all-star cast, and it, again, I don't know a thing about chess. I don't think I have the head for chess, literally. But it does get to you because it's tactical. It's a war game on a board.
And it's a inspiring movie for kids.
It's an aspiring movie, good music, very well done film. Blind
Yeah,
Side.
I want you to defend the Blind Side real
The
fast.
Blind Side, that's a very
It's
difficult
an inspirational
movie.
movie. It's
I
based
think
on a
it
true
cost-
story. I like
No,
that
no.
movie.
It cost her her Oscar for Gravity.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
No.
She should never have gotten the Oscar for Blind
I would,
Side.
No,
I would
no, no,
understand
no,
that.
no.
If she had
She
done it,
did
they
an
wouldn't want to give it
excellent
to her.
job.
Oh, she did nothing. She went through the motions, and the movie
She didn't go
the
through
movie
that.
is
like a-
preposterous.
It felt like a made-for-TV movie.
A goody
honestly.
No,
two
it
shoes.
didn't.
It
A
did.
goody two shoes.
I saw
That
nothing
movie was
new
great
about
box office. It was great to see her. I
Yeah,
believed
but-
her character, and I loved the ending of it. And you got that feel-good ending. This guy came from nothing, a southern white family, takes him in,
It's a
and he ends
made-for-TV
up...
movie. It's
Exactly.
the Brian
no.
song of that era. Although Brian's song was a great movie, and they're remaking that now.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I just heard that too.
And I heard they're remaking my third favorite film of all time, The Magnificent Seven.
Oh,
and,
no
and the
way.
Wild Bunch.
No, the
No,
Wild Bunch.
no.
There was an attempt. You know what the Wild Bunch? It essentially it was remade with Sabotage. That was the desire of what the Wild Bunch was.
I still
gonna
don't
be.
call that the Wild Bunch. Then.
It is
It was
because
a failed
of the,
attempt, I guess it would be
the
called.
Wild Bunch will never get remade because of the violence in it, and that is my favorite film along with High Noon of all time. High Noon is my childhood, and the Wild Bunch is my, I guess, you want to call it.
So we just
adulthood.
went into westerns.
Yeah.
Is there? All right. What's the latest good western? Is there one?
Oh, no, there isn't one. There
That's
hasn't been
brutal.
one.
That's brutal to ask what the latest good western is because they've forgotten how to make them. But again,
It's not that Clint Eastwood piece of crap. That's for
oh
sure.
well, now you're talking Unforgiven.
Yes, it's not that one.
That was dreadful. I turned around to Clint in 1975 after Josie Wales and said that's the best movie you'll ever make. But he keeps on going and going and going, and
Because he
and
makes
as I
them
said,
underneath budget and on time.
It brings me. It's an amazing movie to watch the Jersey Boys and realize how good a director he is by non-directing. And Jersey Boys has a scene in it of a bowling alley that I used for an event, and they told me there was going to be in there, and there it is, fits perfectly in. And then they also use a scene on a pier, and it's the Santa Monica Pier instead of the Atlantic City Pier. And I said, my God, I grew up on that pier and under that pier. So when you watch something that you can identify with, and the perfect example of that is I saw Pulp Fiction
Ah,
in
I was going to talk about
1994.
an overrated movie.
Well,
But finish your
it's not an
story.
overrated.
Finish your story.
I'm sitting in Atlantic City in the summer of 1994 watching a movie in a building that an old friend of mine lived in and a restaurant I had eaten in, and then all of a sudden, this is a movie that Travolta dies and then theoretically comes back, and I remember the audience going, he dead, and I'm going, non-linear construction. Tarantino, who I have troubles with, although I like Django, but try watching Django a second time. It doesn't work.
I did. It
It's
doesn't.
not-
I liked
no,
it a second time.
It fails. It
No, it's a
fails.
good movie.
It doesn't hold. I would like to meet with him, though, because I have
I'll
disliked
work on
most
it.
of his movies. I would really like to get a shot at him and have him make a movie about what I've been going through for the last 40 years, before it became legal. So that's part of, yes, I think he should take a shot at that. No, I don't know what he's up to at this point in time. But you mentioned, what are the movies that you were talking about, overrated?
Overrated movies that the general
Pulp
public
Fiction
liked.
is something you're
My
about
first
to mention.
one, these are my 3 picks. Blade Runner, Pulp Fiction, and
Well, Pulp Fiction has moments of brilliance.
It has
well,
lots of
no,
moments of
it's,
brilliance.
it's a well-acted movie.
Bruce Willis
Well, no, we're not
is
talking
brilliant.
about,
He's
we're not just talking
magnificent
about the
in
acting.
it.
We're talking about filmmaking in general. I mean, the non-linear style was amazing. The music.
No,
is
I look at it
fantastic.
as a character-driven movie.
Well,
I just
look at all the
I
actors
just
in
don't
there.
like that movie.
Well, what is it you don't like about it? Name one thing about it you don't
You
like.
know,
It does nothing for me. Bill
Oh, come
Bill
on.
came up with a great system called the 4 E's, which Movie Reviews and More uses. It's
I don't
be
even remember what it is. I invent things and throw them away.
It's gotta
Entertaining.
It's got to be entertaining,
Educational.
exciting, educational. It's got to be empathetic, emotional, and if it's
It was-
really bad,
it
if
was-
gotta
it's
care.
really bad, it's got to be empty
It-
or effortless.
It had about 3 E's there. It
All
was
good
emotional.
movies have some of those elements, and if you can't think of one, Pulp Fiction has nothing to that to me, and neither does Blade Runner.
Not even the sodomy.
Well,
man?
you know,
Come on.
that
They're fighting-
sodomy scene is rather amusing.
It is, isn't it? But at the same time, it's something that any one of us could accidentally fall into. And the fact that these guys were having this big epic,
The only
fight
problem with
each other.
Tarantino, he continually regurgitates his own entrails and re-eats them. He keeps on doing everything over and
But
over
he's
and
the
over.
only one who can
And
do
then
it.
the opening scene of *Inglourious Bastards*, which they attribute to somebody else, it's a John Sturges scene from
Yeah.
The Magnificent Seven of the man working
Well,
at the
he's
woodpile
paying
of Charles
homage.
Bronson.
Yeah, he's paying homage.
He's
in it. I
paying
saw
too
that.
much homage. He's paying way too much homage. God knows it. He pays homage to himself now, and that becomes redundant.
Well, that part I understand, but if I were to become, a filmmaker, when I pay homage to as many people as possible, the people that
Subtly.
inspired me, it's subtly, of course. And I guess you can understand. It feels like it's gone a little too
If
far.
it becomes
at this
overbearing,
point.
if you can see too much of it in there, you're in trouble. If it
But
becomes,
maybe you're looking for it at this point.
well, I don't want to be looking for it. I want to be looking for a good movie.
And
don't
I
want
like
go
to be
find it.
surprised that none of those movies did anything. Let's
Yeah.
pick on Victor for a minute
You gonna
here.
pick on me?
Yeah,
Okay.
he mentioned Howard the Duck.
Oh
yesterday.
yeah. I
Oh,
mentioned
my
it.
God.
No, look, it may have been wrong for
may
your
be considered-
generation.
well,
No,
wrong
tell
for,
him why you brought that up.
It's
Howard
wrong
the
for any
Duck.
generation that's still breathing.
No, it was just wrong for the generation that came out.
It was a beyond embarrassing, complete disaster.
Everyone
He
I've
says
ever
the kids
spoken
of his
to-
era like Howard
Kids-
the Duck.
yeah,
Well, yeah, how loaded were they when they were watching
They
it?
weren't loaded for nothing. This was the generation after that was loaded. Our generation did appreciate last.
You were snorting glue instead of
I wasn't snorting anything. I was watching Howard the Duck is what happened.
Howard
I fell
the
in love
Duck
with that film.
was
Leah Thompson was
appalling.
amazing in it. I love the animatronics. on the Duck. I love-
1986, Howard the Duck.
86. No, it was 86, 87.
And
Oh,
Leah
86.
Thompson is in my favorite film of that decade, which of course is Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Which is a great
yeah.
movie.
She looked
Perfect film.
Beautiful in that movie. Oh my
Perfect,
god.
perfect
All right,
film that should
tell us
never
another
have
movie.
sequels.
What else do you like?
Yeah, he's a
That I
different
like,
generation.
Oh well, I'm a different generation.
What's your
but I've
favorite
seen
movie
films.
of all time?
Of all time, it has to be A Clockwork Orange. It has to
That's
be A Clockwork
interesting
Orange.
for being that young and still liking Clockwork Orange. You're still a kid. Clockwork Orange is a very effective film. If you study it,
Yes, I have.
it doesn't hold up.
I think it does.
It's the violent,
It's
anti-violent, it's beyond dated.
Now, I think the ultra-violence
as is, of course,
beautiful.
2001, which is awful. Now,
Yeah,
there
I
is
agree.
an overrated
It
film.
was.
I
It
agree.
was
That
breaking
is
the
a-
future technology. And
Oh,
advance.
come on.
We took a lot of our technology from
He
that
turned
film.
space into being boring.
Oh, I didn't find it boring.
Space, the empty
I
frontier.
didn't, I didn't find it boring. I think
Yes.
you're looking at it wrong. Watch it with me, and I'll be able to point
What,
out
you're going to
stuff.
tell me how little things going around?
I'll show you little things going around, but I'll explain it beautifully. It'll be like a moving pole.
See,
for you.
Victor sees things from a filmmaker's perspective.
I-
It's
that's
very
a different
interesting.
angle.
And
Well,
Bill,
I've made films. I've done, in my area, in my
But,
genre.
but you look at
genre.
things from a whole different perspective too. And I come from the home video genre of things. When you came in from a long 9-to-5 day of working, my job was to give you the right movie that lifted
I don't
your
know if I've ever
spirits.
had
or
a
something
long
like that.
9 to 5
Just think
day
of it.
working in my
We
life.
have no video stores left to go in and actually pick
That's
up
a
stuff.
shame. That's a damn shame.
And that's not good. We got Netflix, which is good, but you can't go
Yeah,
in
in
and pick
fact,
up stuff,
I just started the second season of House of Cards.
which is the good one.
It's
But we're still on features. We're going to get to TV stuff in a
Spacey.
minute.
I want to talk
really
about
Finish.
something for a quick
Finish.
second. The newer generation movies are fantastic, but I tend to find myself leaning away from them and watching more of the older classics. A new comedy comes up, I'd rather watch Marx Brothers. Give me
But
the
that's
option.
good. That's going back and studying the history
But
of
that's the
film, though.
original.
But the funniest movie ever made is The Producers.
Oh, that's right.
That's the funniest
no.
film ever made.
The funniest movie that I think is ever made.
Oh, comedies.
It's a mad
Oh, that's
world.
a terrible. Now
that's an
there,
excellent movie.
It's a
that,
good
no,
movie.
that is one of the most
that movie
overrated
made me wanna watch
pieces
the
of
movie.
I think
junk
that's the biggest
I've
argument
ever
you can
suffered.
build.
No. It's
That movie goes on forever and goes
I want it
nowhere. Quite honestly, I hate slapstick. I don't think.
Oh, no.
Well, okay, I grew up with the most miserable group of people, the Three Stooges, being forced down my throat.
like them too
Have you ever been poked in the eye? It's not
No,
fun.
you go like
why
this.
you watch block it.
Well, I don't know how I could block it. I couldn't see the fingers coming.
No,
Come on, I got poked in the eye.
Don't worry about the Stooges. They're
They
all
are
slapstick. Don't worry
just
about them.
dreadful.
Stick with the Marx Brothers.
The
They're
funniest
slapstick
person ever
comedy.
lived was, of course, Jackie Gleason.
Oh,
His,
well, that was
his
good.
human comedy. But the Mad World is
Oh,
one of
it's
the
an excellent
worst
movie.
films.
It's okay.
No,
It's
just- I wouldn't call it the best.
insufferable.
No, that's a great movie.
It's how the West was won
You
with
know,
Aha.
the story behind it's a mad
I love that.
world. It got the country out of the shock of the assassination of President Kennedy.
Oh, any
And
movie
that
at the
movie-
time that would have come
and
out
that
with
movie-
comedy would have
That
gotten
movie
people out of
ran for a
shock.
full year at the Dome.
Which
That's how well it
which
did.
I'm linked to the Dome because a friend of mine helped build it. He was a laugh and plaster at the Dome. And going to the Dome, Cinerama Dome, is an experience unto itself.
And if you're listening to this, I'll let
I
you tell the story.
love the
If you're
Cinerama
outside
Dome.
the U.S., the Cinerama Dome in Hollywood is one of the
Hollywood
best
Divine.
places to see a movie.
Or
It's built
Sunset
in
Divine.
1961, and they built it in about 7 months. And,
Yes.
and it's a mad world.
And all the
It's first movie
Cinerama
that
movies,
debuted there.
all the Cinerama movies played there. They were travelogues, and How the West Was Won played there. And if you watch How the West Was Won, it was shot with 3 cameras, and they've never been able to take the lines out of the middle of the screen, which is rather amusing. You watch the wagons run into each other literally as they're crossing the screen. The buffaloes running the other way. How the West Was Won is an epical, historical pleasure to watch as a motion picture. And the Dome, of all the theaters I've ever been in, I think that's my favorite theater to go see a movie and to escape into the darkness of the Dome.
And we're going to leave it at that. I'm Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk about TV shows coming up, our favorite shows. Wow.
Howard the Duck.
Yeah,
Oh
Howard
my
the Duck. Don't
God.
do that. It was just wrong for its time. The generation after appreciated much more than that. It was
Wrong
a
for
campy,
its time. It would be wrong for prehistoric days.
It
No one in
was-
their right
It was
mind.
campy. It was wonderful.
It wasn't.
It was. I thought it was an amazing
there
show.
was
I thought it was
nothing
hilarious
there.
in a lot of levels.
I could-
I like
Why did they
the
make that movie?
look. I
and
like
you-
the fact that it was a crude movie that had to do with
You
the world of the
also
duck.
realize that the people behind that movie made American Graffiti,
Yeah, I remember that. I was
which is
looking
one
at-
of the great films of all time.
Well, the writer was also the screenwriter for Indiana Jones: The Temple of Doom.
Which wasn't as good as well.
It was the same-
Indiana Jones is a very strange movie. The whole series, I think, began and ended at the beginning of the first movie.
Yeah, I could see
Probably
that.
the best scene ever done is an entire Saturday afternoon matinee in one scene. Everything goes wrong, and he gets to bail out with a big stone and all of that. That is sort of cool. But oh my God, Howard! I didn't think I'd ever have to hear about that movie again.
You heard a lot from me.
You know, they thought so little of Howard the Duck. You know where they screened that movie for the press?
Where?
The Fairfax Theater,
Really?
when it was still in existence.
Wow.
And I remember people halfway through vanishing. I think that Elmer and I were the only 2 people there because I've only walked out on maybe 2 movies in my life. And I can barely remember one of them was Johnny Be Good. I walked out on that movie. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I got disgusted. So I wandered out. There was another one where the red fern grows.
Oh no, really?
I walked out.
I love that movie.
I remember that, and I said, this movie is making my teeth disintegrate.
I love that
gotta
movie
get out
because
of
it had
this
to do
thing.
about dogs. And I'm usually a cat person, and I don't really need to see much movies about dogs that make me feel for them. But the way the Red Fern goes, come on. A boy and his dog's working his ass off to get these animals, and then they end up protecting them, dying, and then one dies protecting him, the other one decides to stay
I
with
don't
him.
even remember a dog in the movie. I just
That's the
thought
whole point of the movie.
You know, I remember ripping the movie apart, and the creator of the movie thanked me for my honesty.
The book is fantastic. I love the book. I read the book at least 4 times.
It's funny you mentioned books because you're talking about The Exorcist being frightening. Read the book.
Oh, I know. The book is
Read
much more
the
terrifying.
book. The book works. The movie when I first saw the movie, didn't work because it was all sight and sound and no soul.
Yeah, I
It
could
was
see
all,
that.
And watching her head spin and the pea soup coming out, it didn't work for me.
Hey, it's Brian Sebastian. We're back with Movie Reviews and More. Co-hosts Bill Margold and Victor Garcia. I was going to go into TV shows, but you know what? I forgot. We got to talk about the greatest movies ever made.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Well,
Greatest movies ever made. Hold on. I'm going to give you a list first.
Well, wait a minute.
Wait,
Oh,
give you what?
Well, I
I'm
know
going
what
to talk
you're
about something.
You're going to talk about Citizen Kane. And
I
you're
am
gonna talk
not.
about Castle
No, I'm going to
Black.
talk about Das Boot. I'm going to talk about L.A. Confidential.
Oh, I love
Oh,
L.A.
yeah.
Confidential.
Singing in the Rain.
Oh, I love Singing in the
Downfall.
Rain.
Who?
The King's Speech. Downfall. The last days
German movie?
of Adolf Hitler. It was really, really good.
All right. You're
Gladiator?
esoteric for me. Gladiator's not a great
Aliens.
movie.
No.
It is too.
Aliens.
Aliens or Alien?
Aliens. The
Yeah,
second one.
No, the
Cameron
first
one.
one's better than the
No,
second
the
one.
First one's a horror movie. The second one's an action movie. You have to
No,
learn
the
that.
first one is great because there's
I didn't
only
even
one
make it through the
monster.
list yet.
The second one is terrible
Hold
because
on.
there's too many monsters.
No, no, no.
Let me
Second one
finish
was the
this.
best
We got to
one.
go back to Aliens and Aliens.
And also, you have brought up the greatest action movie ever made, which is Gunga Din.
Gunga Din.
That wasn't the greatest action movie.
It wasn't the
Absolutely.
greatest. I think it
No,
was good.
That is the
not.
best action film scene for scene ever done.
No.
And the Guns of Navarone is better than anything you've named there.
Well, finish your list. What's on the
All
list?
right. I'm going to Goodfellas. I'm going to Heat
Goodfellas.
because of that shootout.
Well, Heat is sort of cool, yes.
Saving Private Ryan.
That's a terrible film.
No.
I love Saving
The
Private Ryan.
Departed, and I put Paths of
The
Glory.
Departed
which I
was
like.
fantastic
I think
film.
Paths of Glory.
Paths of Glory is a great anti-war movie by Kubrick. It's a wonderful film. I always had a favorite film of each decade in my life. In the 50s would have been High Noon, 60s The Wild Bunch, without a doubt. The 70s, the original Star Wars. 80s, Back to the Future. 90s, which is the one that really baffles people. I think Babe is the best movie about friendship ever made.
Babe is a beautiful film.
And of the first decade of the 21st century, the Star Trek movie was the one that made my list. Because I grew up with Star Trek. I didn't even know it was in color. I had a black and white TV, which a huge cat named Bandit used to sleep on. Big black and white cat. And you didn't want to play with Bandit when he was on top of the TV because he'd bite you. So he would get up on the TV and lay there and the tail would go back and forth. And we'd have to look around his tail to watch Star Trek. Nobody told me Star Trek was in color until I finally watched all of them. First season of Star Trek is pure joy. Then it began to get tired of itself. But the movie had the most important thing to me. The four cornerstones of my life are loyalty, truth, honor, and friendship. And I think all my movies are made about friendship because love, sex, all transitory and insignificant. In a relationship, if you're not friends with that person, you have no relationship.
Absolutely.
So
I agree with that.
those are my movies. You named a lot of interesting, Goodfellas. Goodfellas is a great movie. It's the best thing Scorsese will ever do. Departed, he got an Oscar belatedly for a movie that went on and on
But
and
it was
on.
still a good movie, though.
Not that good.
No, it was
I
really
think it was a
good.
fantastic film.
Goodfellas is much better.
Oh, it is.
I
Goodfellas
don't
is
know.
much better.
And I'll
than
tell you what's
Departed
really a
by
piece
far.
of garbage is Casino. That
Oh,
movie,
Casino was a good movie,
that
too.
reeks.
You just don't like Vegas, but no, Casino was a good movie.
Well, I've always said Vegas should have been the original A-bomb site and the world would have been better off.
Maybe.
And I think, unfortunately, when you go to Vegas, you get the end result of all that radiation anyway. If on the way out of Vegas you see some of your hair falling out, you know that it's catching up with you. The only way to see Vegas is in your rearview mirror. That town and I, if I had a way of destroying it, I would, because it also is a town that breeds misery, and it's probably the only town in the world that is completely soulless.
Well, instead of Area
Well, it's
51,
run
maybe
by
they'll have an
money,
Area
it's good.
52 then, too, huh?
Area 69.
Okay, we're going to go back to Aliens. Aliens is better than
It is
Alien.
not.
It is.
Okay,
It
that's
is not,
Ridley Scott versus
because
James
there's
Cameron
nothing frightening in Aliens. Aliens
Aliens was
Okay, but
we're
you're talking
talking
about
what
two different
Aliens was a
Alien
better
is
movie,
a
though.
brilliant movie. That's another one where that thing came popping out of the chest. Although I had known, I had met Dan O'Bannon. He had come and we'd spoken many, many times. He told me after he made that movie that he got very sick and there was something inside of him that couldn't get out. That Alien it literally did scare the hell out
It
of me.
scared everybody.
Okay, but you're talking
And I'd
about
like to see
two
the
different
uncut
films.
version of that. Well, no,
are.
Aliens is also frightening.
But it isn't not nearly compared to Alien.
Well, no, it isn't because there are too many too many.
It's guns.
There's
It's
too many
violence.
damn beasties.
But
It's
no
not the beast that make it too much.
no matter
Granted.
what, the star is Sigourney Weaver.
Well, yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it great?
but
Isn't
she's
it great to have a
she's
female?
Well, I love tomboys, and
Oh,
Sigourney
yeah.
Weaver may be the greatest tomboy of all time in that, where she straps on a gun and says, "Come on after me," and all that kind of stuff. But that's being commonly done now. Eva Green in the Return of the 300 is tremendous. I don't know if you've suffered through that movie. It's a terrible film.
I
but
like
she is tremendous.
Yeah, I know. I liked it.
Even Mireille Ennis in the miserable Sabotage is one hell of a tomboy. She really, really straps on those guns and kills everything that gets in her way. I'm a great fan of women who don't cry all the time. These ones always whine and run on, boo hoo hoo. Send them to their room and let them get it out of their system. I like strong. I always chose.
But to be fair, that they're doing what they're told to in the writing. You just mean you want
Not
to see more
necessarily.
strong
No.
characters.
They're not necessarily doing what they're told to. They're the ones I think take the role and make it their own. I think that's the kind
In
of
a way, you can only stretch a
performance-
character so far.
That's
though.
not true.
think-
When you get into a role, you find things in that role that transcend what the director wants. And in fact, I don't consider myself even remotely close to being defined as an actor, but I've gotten into roles of being evil that the director said to me when the movie's over, what were you doing? I said, I have no idea. In fact, I was given one series of lines in a movie where I went so nuts that apparently the director yelled cut 5 or 6 times, and I was just boiling with such hatred that he just let me go. I'd love to, he cut half the scene, but I was playing a person I didn't like, and I played him so well that I almost had a stroke playing that character.
I can see what you're saying
believe that
there.
when you're given a role that you can sink all of your teeth into, including your wisdom teeth that have been pulled a decade before, then you just roll with that, and I love it. In a movie I did many, many years ago, I wrote the role so it'd be chronological. I became more and more and more and more deranged until finally, at the end of it, the vampires didn't want any part of me, so they threw me off the building.
We were talking about Alien and Aliens. Let's go into that movie. You haven't seen it yet. That we saw, and I'm not supposed to talk about it, but I am going to
Why
talk
aren't
about
you
it.
talking about it?
I am going to talk about it.
Maybe
It's
not.
called
Just
Deep
don't
Sea
talk too
Challenge
much.
3D. It comes out August 8th.
Is this a Cameron movie?
This is James Cameron.
That man
Excellent
can't get out
movie.
from underneath the
No.
ocean.
Oh, it's his
excellent
passion.
movie. It's its passion. Who
If
would have
he's a
known?
director,
Well,
and
how
it's
much
his
deeper
passion.
can you get? The deep.
The deep. The
There
deep
was
is.
there was that great movie about those people who dived, the diving movie, Deep Blue, I think it was called. Tremendous film.
Oh, that's nothing. You
The
wait
French
till
film.
you see this
You
movie.
do have to watch Deep Sea Challenge.
This movie
This is about
great.
truth here, though. I mean, this
Well,
isn't a film.
He
This
talks
is a
about
documentary.
what he does. He talks about he can't decide what he likes to do more: going underneath the water by himself and having that solitude, or being a filmmaker. And in the end, he always wanted to be going underneath the
Ocean
sea.
is one of the deadliest forces in the world.
Exactly.
As
exactly.
that. So he gets his passion from
Think
that.
about his movies. I mean, The Abyss, Titanic. It's all been heavy.
Well, you know what Titanic is interesting. That's the movie that beat L.A. Confidential, which
Yes.
was a perfect film. And I had a one-word review for Titanic: abysmal. I
gotta admit, I didn't
and
appreciate the
I tried
film when
to
it
watch
came
that
out.
movie again. It does not work. It's a big boat, and if the boat had come back up, again, I was sort of hoping at the end of the movie that DiCaprio in the old bag walks to the end of the film, into the boat, and looks down. I was hoping the ghost of DiCaprio would come up and drag her into the water. I really, really, really did not like Titanic, and the fact that L.A. Confidential,
kids did,
which is a
and they went back
perfect movie,
3, 4,
L.A.
5
Confidential
Are you
is
kidding me?
a
That one
perfect
went
movie.
#1 for how long? It was a world record.
The King of the World, the King of the World,
Yeah.
and then he makes a movie far superior to Titanic that doesn't win the Oscar. If you use the Oscar as a divining
and it
board,
should have won the Oscar.
Avatar was brilliant.
It was.
Avatar was the best
film.
use of the cinematic medium at that point, as Gravity was the best use of the cinematic medium now. Also, you said a term, 3D. 3D is very dangerous because if you've suffered concussions, 3D doesn't really work.
I don't think
So
3D
you have
adds
no
to the
idea.
film.
And
That's
3D,
the lie.
I actually thought it did.
What the hell is going to happen to
here's the
3D
thing.
under the water?
I'm not a fan of
Fish.
always wearing glasses, and this is a
I
lot
don't want
of
a fish hitting me in the face. I want a fish on a plate like I want a horse on a plate. Him in a stupid Secretariat movie. If that animal was on the plate, then I'd eat it.
But
You
here's the
know.
thing. How far can they go with 3D? And why do they want to?
There's no
because
more.
I think
because
3D
I was scared
you know
of
why
seeing
they're
this
charging
movie.
they're charging you for more money.
Yeah,
Like
but
$18, $20.
I know.
Let me see that press kit. That's
How did it
interesting.
say 3D will be an extra charge to your ticket? That's the only thing 3D
But this
provides.
movie was really, really good, and I didn't mind the glasses
90
for a
minutes.
long.
And
It was really good.
No, it was a great film.
What you're really hoping
This
is
movie-
that bathysphere
No, no.
explodes
This movie
and
was-
they all die.
This movie was entertaining. It was exciting to watch.
It was a documentary,
emotional.
though, so
and it
Oh
was
my God, we're
educational.
going to the wreck of the Bismarck?
Yeah, it was very, very good.
Come on, that's
Excellent
an amazing
movie.
one. Something that
Excellent
you've
movie.
never seen before.
That's why I don't care. I can live without seeing the
But
wreck of the
I
Bismarck.
care. I
No,
want to
well,
see what's out there.
okay, let me tell you about the ocean, and he knows this story. In 1965, when I was body surfing in Malibu, and the waves, the Malibu beach broke this way, and the wave came down, and I looked down, and I said, oh, I'm going to have some problems here. So I landed on my head, and I heard a crack. And I figured, oh, I've broken my back. The undertow now proceeded to drag me along the bottom of the ocean, and pretty fast. And I said to myself, I'm in trouble, because what you don't do is fight undertow. So I'm being dragged along and dragged along and dragged along for an unnatural amount of time, at which point I now all of a sudden could breathe, I could see, and it became really warm. And I said to myself, I guess I'm dead. I then went, there's a shelf in Malibu, and I went over the shelf and flipped, and now was dragged back and thrown out in the ocean. And I have two witnesses of this, because when I came out of the ocean, which had always been trying to kill me anyway, I grew up in the ocean, I stood up, and they said, don't look down. And of course, you tell me not to do something, I immediately did, and every point in my body, because then I weighed about 160 pounds, had been rubbed raw. And blood was sheeting down my body, which I thought was fantastic. I turned around and went right back in. I've not been in the ocean since August 1st, 1996.
Because you saw Jaws.
No. I stepped on a manta ray. I've met things in the ocean you don't want to meet. I grew up in the ocean. I love the ocean. I was being trained to be a world-class swimmer when I was 6 years old. But the ocean, you have to respect it, and I think he mocks it by making these movies. He says, oh, look how pretty it is to go under there, because he's the only one who gets to go under there. I don't care.
Well, to be fair,
I don't
this
know.
entire film,
He likes the solitude.
I don't.
He
Well,
does,
really
but
good. Then let him go
in
live in
this entire film, wherever it's
let him
at,
live in a think chamber.
he's talking about when he was a child and now he watched.
Let him take showers by
Now
himself.
it's inspirational. You got to watch it. It's inspiration to children everywhere, and any movie that has
Inspiration
to
to
be about
children.
that.
They don't know what to do in the ocean nowadays. If you go in the ocean, you're polluted to winding up with every disease known to man and beast.
Or are you talking about
I used to chew the
the bad
seawater.
parts? Find the good ones. The good ones.
Find,
go to
well,
this
what
one.
good ones? What assholes
Wherever
you
he's at
dumping
right now,
into?
this is the
All
good
right,
one.
we're going to come
He
back.
can afford to go
I'm
there.
Ryan Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. When we come back, we will talk about TV shows now, our favorite ones. We'll be right back.
Why does this
You got to watch it.
why
though.
does this man continue to go back?
It's an
Can't he get
inspirational
it go
film.
anywhere else?
He explains why he goes in now, and it's really good.
Boy, look at this overweight Marina. Oh, here he is, the Mariana Trench, the deepest part.
Come on,
The
it's beautiful
the,
down
Mi-
there.
the Mindanao Trench. I've always said that's where the whales sound. It's very famous. I've known about all of this, but the ocean has no soul. It'll kill you in a heartbeat.
Then maybe he's trying to find it. Give it at least that much. Take the chance to look at something that no one's ever seen
I think
before.
he will be very happy drowning.
I
to
think
death.
he will. I think he will. I think
That's-
out of the way
I
he
kinda
wants to
think
go
so,
out.
too.
He wants to be in that final capsule when it explodes. I think there's no other better way for him to go out. Either in space or in the ocean. Come on. He spent his life making
And
movies
why
about that.
does the 3D work?
It does, actually.
Well, whenever you talk about 3D, underwater is the only thing it does work for, or space is the only thing it does work for, given you're going to give asteroids and all that stuff, but 3D doesn't work on any other level except for deep sea ocean.
Well, of course, neither of you are old enough to remember the original 3D. We can talk about that. I used to go into the movies, and I've been legally blind. You know, you're both blurs, so I would go in, put those stupid glasses on as a child, those paper things, the little green and blue, and I would get sick. Stuff would be thrown at me, I'd be dodging. I still remember some god-awful movie called The Maze, where this big toad comes hopping out at you, and I'm trying to watch a movie and be entertained, and I got some frog coming out at me. And then there's Feather River, where the spear's thrown at you. There was the killing of a dog in one movie in 3D in Hondo, that made no sense. I think 3D is doomed.
Hey,
It's gonna be
it's Brian
passe.
Sebastian. We're back with Movie
No.
Reviews and More. And Bill's been rambling about...
Well, not rambling about my past, because I suffered through original 3D in the 50s when they took advantage of poor little kids who put on these idiot glasses and then had to dodge toads and spears and God knows what else. And it didn't work, so I'd take off the 3D glasses, and I used to get headaches that felt like my head was being hit with a hatchet.
Same here about current 3D.
You know, I just don't understand it. Now these 3D glasses are heavy, and if you already wear glasses and you have glasses on top of glasses, the only time it worked for me, Avatar was really a treat. Credits of certain movies they do in 3Ds, which I notice, but it's a cheat. And if I have an option to see Apes in 3D, I'm not going to, because I've been told Apes is very, very dark, and dark 3D is really impossible.
Well, we're going to go into Apes the next time you come back. We're going to talk about favorite TV shows before we end. I got to start up with The Shield. I think it's one of the best TV shows ever made.
It was groundbreaking.
I think especially with all those characters, you got to give credit to FX.
FX now has Anarchy coming. And ended.
Final season.
But again, as far as television...
You know what happened? When they went down to 13 episodes, the writing got better.
Yeah, well, whenever shows are shorter...
Less is more.
Yeah, exactly.
You start refining your art, but you notice the first episode of Anarchy is going to be 90 minutes. And they're going to have about 5 90-minute episodes, too. So they're going to do a cheat. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Anarchy is my favorite of all my shows right now. I really like a show on Sci-Fi Channel called Defiance, which is
Defiance is good.
very, very odd, sort of futuristic Western. Of course, it has, because I'm very, very susceptible to anything even remotely redheaded. It has a redheaded heroine in it who reminds me a lot of my great love, Viper, because she's mischievous. My favorite television show of all time, number one on my list, is Hill Street Blues. It caught me at the right moment. I worship the show. I have a couple of tangential involvements with it. I even wore a Hill Street Blues t-shirt in a role, and that means a lot to me. My second favorite show is West Wing. I discovered it I was told I had to see it, and I began to watch it. And I like literacy on television. I like something to make me feel like I have learned something, and West Wing gave me the heart and the soul of what it's like to be politically oriented. Now, of course, with this thing, House of Cards and Scandal, the evils of politics, politicians are all basically corrupt anyway, I guess.
You know, it's funny, my second favorite show is All in the Family.
Oh, that's a beautiful show.
That's interesting.
Well-written.
You're not old enough to remember when it first came on.
Yes, I am.
Are you?
No,
I remember that stuff. I have a good memory.
That was a Saturday night with Mary Tyler Moore.
I remember that
and
stuff.
a couple of other shows at the same, and Bob Newhart.
I
there was
watched
a fourth show. All in the Family was Saturday night must-see TV. Now nobody watches television at all on Saturday night.
I know, yeah. Everyone
Saturday night, everybody's gone. Hell,
Yeah.
I watch, HBO usually shows a good movie on Saturday night, or because television is the fastest way for me to get anything I want in sports, I watch ESPN. I leave ESPN on when I'm at home, just in case something happens in sports that I need. It's my lifeblood. I'm a fan, devoted to the Yankees, devoted to the Lions.
And I'm a Red Sox fan, so I don't care about the
Well, wait a
Yankees.
minute. You have 3 World Series now.
Well, you can't go into sports
how
now.
many
We're
you
still
have?
talking about TV series.
All right, Victor,
here.
what's your favorite shows?
Oh, my favorite all-time show is second would be All in the Family, but because mainly it broke ground for a lot of new shows to come in. But I love Married with Children.
Yes.
I couldn't get enough
Well,
of Married with Children.
Married with Children is the favorite show of my great love, Viper, along with 21 Jump Street, because that's what Fox.
I never liked that.
Well, I liked
Richard
it.
Grieco and all that.
Well, I was anti-Depp because Viper was so pro-Depp, but I admired 21 Jump Street. I think it's funny because the first movie was, I just almost, wanted to tear the screen down. The second one, 22 Jump Street, as I wrote recently, is 22 times better than 21 Jump Street, which isn't really saying that much, but it is, because now it gets closer to the friendship. Married with Children, which I was honored, and I think even you and I went to one of the tapings of that one night at Sony Studios. That's where Brian proved to me that he knew Sandra Bullock, because she called him by first name.
Oh, wow.
We walked up to her and she said, "How you doing, Brian?" And up to that point, friends of mine had castigated Brian for saying that he knew Sandra Bullock as Sandy. But I went to a number of tapings of Married with Children.
Really?
Viper worshipped the show. And I really, really, really liked that family.
Exactly.
They were the anti-family family. And now Ed O'Neill has gone on to the other TV series,
Modern Family.
Modern Family. He's had a remarkable career.
He actually has.
He's
also
sort
a martial artist.
You know what he reminds? He is the human version of Homer Simpson, which in the history of television, possibly the greatest show of all time, consistently has been The Simpsons. Consistently, year in
I
and year
can't
out.
argue
It
with
is
that.
about
I can't
dysfunctional
argue with
families.
that
I
at
think
all.
are the best shows. I mean, Marriage
Well,
Dysfunctional Family, but
name
beautiful
that
and
many
fun.
families that are really functional.
I don't know of any.
Well, that's the thing I hated about all the other shows on TV.
No.
They had this
You know,
campy, beautiful, oh, we're
Life
the
with
best.
Father,
Exactly.
Leave It to Beaver,
Cosby
which
Show
had all
on them.
kinds of
Oh.
connotations.
That was funny.
All these
Married with Children was the one that hit
Married with
closest to home.
Children
I
hit
like that.
closest to the problems that families have, and Katie Segal to go from that to Anarchy.
Yep.
Oh,
where,
yeah.
of course she's married to the creator of Anarchy, which is rather amusing.
Kurt Sutter.
You gotta wonder how Anarchy is going to end, because of course if you're an Anarchy fan, the last episode of the last season is about as gory as it's ever going to get. And we gotta wonder if Jax, who knocks off one part of his family, is going to knock off the other part of his family.
It'll be interesting to
You
see
know
what
how,
happens.
however, since he's a hero's anti-hero, all heroes, as I just pointed out on the page dedicated to heroes, wind up alone.
Yeah.
Heroes
Yep.
are doomed to be alone because they're
And with
scared to
that-
get close to people.
I go to my third one, which is 24.
Oh, that's terrible.
Jack Bauer.
That
24
show,
they just-
I
they
could
just
not
it out again.
Within the first
TikTok, that's a
24
good show.
minutes of the first show, I was already clank,
No,
clank,
no,
clank,
no.
clank, clank,
The
clank.
first Sutherland
the
is
first
amazing.
5 seasons,
but-
Oh,
great.
jeez.
Yeah, that's it.
great.
They should have just ended it at that point.
Oh, I agree. But,
That is
that's
just
what that goes
awful.
back to having 22, 24 episodes. You know,
Well,
start
but
running out
there are
after
shows
15.
that can sustain that.
Yeah.
There are
Married
shows that
Children,
can sustain.
Seinfeld.
Scandal sustains its number of shows. Grey's Anatomy, as innocuous it is.
Well, that's
managed
because
to-
I say it's because of Shonda Rhimes' writing.
I like Grey's Anatomy a lot. That's a show that I look forward to. I don't know if there's anything in the must-see right now, though. Summertime, and I just wrote my whole page on summertime television, is the end of True Blood, finally, become anemic. But I like I say, I'll go back to talking about this Defiance show, which people will not watch.
On
because
Sci-Fi Channel.
Sci-Fi Channel, it really has a lot of fun in it. It's,
I'm surprised you like that show. That's
well,
pretty good, though.
well, of course, the heroine is redheaded, and
thank you.
and she has
They're not as
mannerisms.
fancy.
I like
Yeah.
to find people who have mannerisms. You like to think that people might have studied the woman I lived with and then used their mannerisms, because this is stuff that Viper did. But of course, that goes back to a movie that I adore called Nightmare Before Christmas,
Yeah.
which I'll put
Beautiful
into your listeners and readers and whatever mind. Take a look at Sally and take a look at Viper.
I gotta admit, I saw that picture and I was shocked.
And the analogy of Sally glides, Viper was a ballet dancer. The equivalent of stitches on a rag doll is a tattoo. But what makes it absolutely obvious that Burton knew who Viper was, the person who designed Sally is in a wheelchair. The person who put that tattoo on Viper, a man named Harry Van Groff in Philadelphia, was in a wheelchair. And if that's not just, happy coincidences. You've got to be kidding. Viper was out of my life by the time I saw the movie, but I worship the film. I
All
worship the film for perpetuating
We're talking
her.
about movies that are coming up before we leave. We got 3 minutes going up.
What I have to look forward to?
Absolutely.
There's not
I'm
much to look
scared.
forward to
I'm
now.
scared. I'm scared of
Summer
the
is
movies.
almost over. Box office is not doing well this year. One movie we all liked was Captain America.
Oh yeah, part 2.
That was
Well, you know why I
Part two.
liked it? Because it didn't
I hate
treat
the
me
first
like a
one.
6-year-old.
Exactly.
It gave me a villain that I could identify with, and it made him a lonely hero because he's never going to have a relationship. As much as Scarlett Johansson is fun to look at, she's bouncing around with that guy with the arrows, Blade,
Hawkeye, yeah.
Hawkeye, so she's too busy rolling around herself.
But it's well written.
It's
The
a much
action is
better
well
movie,
written.
and
the
the sec-
action's much better.
Here's the trick of watching any of those movies, by the way. Don't leave the theater till the lights come up.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
there's
of
not only
course.
one kicker in Captain America, there's a second one
There's
where
two in that
Bucky
one.
goes to the Smithsonian. That is a tremendous kicker.
Yeah.
And
We
Stan
missed
Lee
that
is
one the
there.
first time. I had to check that one out.
Don't
myself.
walk out of theaters until they throw you out.
Hey, I'm Brian Sebastian. You've been listening and watching Movie Reviews and More. For Victor Garcia
Yo.
and Bill Margold, we will see you on Fridays at 11 o'clock West Coast time. And for all you people outside the U.S., feel free to give us a call or watch our archive shows later on.
That'd be fun.
We'll see you soon.